See this, folks? It's called exercise. It's mandatory. You're supposed to do it every day. It shouldn't be seen as a chore. It doesn't have to be back-breaking. You don't have to do it for an hour. Although they recommend 35 minutes a day, I put it to you that you can probably do it in less time than that. 35 minutes is just based on whatever modality that they had it set up for the study, which is probably walking on a treadmill or something. So walking on a treadmill for 35 minutes a day burned a certain amount of energy that they attributed to better functioning of your brain, or, you know, increasing that blood pressure, heart rate, and then that sort of rise and fall. So my change of this exercise effectively, or this system that they developed, was just that, how's it going? Good to see you, Ben. Is just to make the exercise that you do just slightly more difficult than walking on a treadmill, but it should be something that's still really practical and like pretty essential. Like every day, whether you would like to admit it or not, you're sitting down on a chair and standing back up. You're sitting off the edge of your bed and standing back up. You get down on the ground to pat your dog, and then you have to get back off the ground and stand back up. This should be something. I keep my arms down sometimes I have them out. If you've got bad balance or you can't sit down in a squat like that, even though my back's rounded, as you can see, because I've got poor flexibility. If you can't suspend yourself down in a deep squat in any shape or form, like somebody sitting at the side of the road in Malaysia or Indonesia cooking satay skewers, it's something that you should work towards getting into the habit of. So I'm going to start counting some of my numbers just today to show as a benchmark what somebody who's more or less, you know, proficient in, or I won't say more or less, I'll say extremely proficient, because I've been doing them my whole life. From primary school in Germany, they tell you to do a Kniebeugen, which is what we call a squat. Kniebeugen? Kniebeugen. Haven't said it for a while. And this is how they tell you to do it. So you're squatting down like that, and you're keeping your arms going out as a counterbalance. Jazz in the house, good to see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and breathe, folks, breathe. The biggest novice mistake that people make here when they come in, it's like for Ben, I know for a fact you can probably do a whole bunch of, I see I'm getting a bit of clip in there. Maybe it's coming from this. Clip. Bring that down. I hear the mic clipping, and I think it's because it's going from my Artem through to this other software, and I haven't attenuated it there. I listened to your music, by the way, Ben. That was cool, man. It was really, really interesting stuff. A 10-minute track. You have to send it. I'll send it to Jazz to check out what it is that Ben's doing. Ben's been in a whole bunch of bands over the last 20 years, and I've liked all of them, actually. I like 85 Bears. I thought they were cool, and a couple of the other ones I've heard bits and pieces for as well, if they were on various streaming services. And today's a good day. As you can hear, no aircon. Why is there no aircon? Because I just got out of the esky. I just got out of my freezer box, so I'm still freezing. I'm gonna have some kangaroo with the lads and some sauerkraut, get back into it, and get out some squats, because I've had some problems with my knee today from walking. All of a sudden, one of my right knee started swelling up. It's from meniscus damage that I did to my leg boxing probably about more than that now, 15 years ago. And it flares up every now and then, but a bit of ice and a bit of, rest ice elevation still helps for rehabilitating it. So you could go to the surgery option, the option that I'm trying to dissuade anybody who watches Start Building Me from going to. This is the better option than the surgery option, folks, because the surgery option doesn't necessarily end with one surgery. It's usually extenuating circumstances, as surgeons like to talk about all the time, which results in more and more and more of the same thing being done again and again and again. Every time it's stressing the living deity out of you and makes life, adds complications. As you've heard, surgical complications is something that they use all the time. I'll do another 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I've really got to put Streamlabs bot on the chill pill. It doesn't like any links, anything being set up. And I think I said it that way initially, but I just sort of didn't think of the limitations of it. It would be cool if people could... 24 messages were deleted by a moderator. It's a technical, it's a bot moderator. It's rest assured nobody that I've got on my payroll, folks. Anyway, I have to work on that. I'll put in my to-do list. So, yeah, so Monday's a good one. Kanan Book of Power. It's a TV show loosely based on 50 Cent's life. And I will watch House of Dragons. Why not? The last one was all right. But Andor is going pretty well. It's also Family Guy and Simpsons night. So it's usually just a Monday night that I book myself into sitting in front of the TV with the hounds. I've just been watching Chelsea play Aston Villa. I've got money on Chelsea. I know the match has already been played, but I didn't get to watch it over this weekend. I haven't seen the score. So I'm hoping Chelsea won. And they're up at this stage, which is good. My camera test, my microphone test worked today, so I can use my wireless mic when walking around outside. That worked really cool. I'm still just trying to troubleshoot what it is to get the lights outside. So there's so much light obviously coming from the sun as a backlight that it's hard to balance it out with, light from the front. I'll have to get a pretty big light that I'll just have to put off for some time being. Yeah, yes, definitely. I'll send it over. Don't worry about that. Like I said, I was just it's cool. It's just sort of drum centric music, which makes sense. But it's just I like listening to mates' music infinitely more than I like listening to a band's music. I can listen to a mate's tracks to death just because you can always hear them inside the track, It's just like when people listen to D7B stuff, then they can attribute certain sounds that you're using to you, So it makes it a little bit more interesting that way. I get more longevity out of it. It's like there are exceptions. Like I love Hypocrisy, a Swedish metal band, so I listen to them all the time. And so there are exceptions to the rules, but I generally really like listening to friends' music best. So keep it coming. I'll bust out another 10, try and iron out my knee a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I actually will, mate. I've got a bunch of my tunes, and obviously you guys know where my tunes at the moment are probably residing without me saying anything more on stream now. But they certainly are not in my house on my computers. They're somewhere else on computers for the time being. And but I still nonetheless have drum and bass from other people, because obviously all my hard drives I don't have at the moment for the time being. And but I've got a whole bunch of other people's drum and bass that I liked. And I've got this thing made by Native Instruments called a tractor. And it sort of looks like turntables, but you can easily beat match it. Like you can just match the tempos. It's so much easier than mixing vinyl. And I've been playing around with that, but just too busy with Start Building Me in Townsville at this stage. But I want to do it because I want to host a Townsville party, a drum and bass party, and I want to play at it. And I want to get 2 different DJs, one guy from Sydney, one guy from Melbourne up to play at it. As just a promotional thing, and also doing like local bands, stuff like that. Just, you know, anything to promote Townsville is what Townsville's about. If somebody's making a cool product and they want a distributor, it will sort of act like a distributor as well. So it's just anything that promotes local products and local producers, designers, artists, whatever it is. There's a massive youth crime problem in Townsville, Ben. And people are just like, oh, these rapscallions, just lock them all up. And it's like, it's not going to fix the problem, right? It's like if you don't give people the opportunities, there's no education for them. And you don't sort of like, you can't just say, okay, everyone's going to be a miner or everyone's going to be a tradesperson. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? You just see that very quickly when you're at even school and university. It's just like if you pigeonhole, you know, people into jobs they don't want to do, they'll go postal, you know, and like that term comes from people being stuck in jobs that they're not going to be able to do mentally. Mate, yeah, well, you know, I always like Jojo Meyer. He's like a Swiss guy that does live drum and bass, like on the fly sort of stuff, which is like unreal, like really, not really my sort of thing, but his proficiency in what he does is, I think, probably the best out there as an example if you want to check out. But definitely Cameo, mate, that's the plan. Is just in the end I can rope mates that are into bands and stuff that are going to be out here to play sets and stuff and just promote good quality stuff. Just like I said, create a platform as an entity to promote cool stuff that's happened here. You know, fashion, like I'm making dog collars, for instance, for Townsville and out of hornback, the leather that's on the back strap of a crocodile, so they look really tough, you know, like would be more of a thing that I could market to the rest of the world instead of just regionally to Townsville and stuff like that. There's like, it's a pretty cool area, as you sort of pointed out, not only geographically beautiful, but there's a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool stuff. And, you know, we're rated as this horrible, worst place to live in Australia. And it's like, I'm glad that people see it that way because it's awesome up here and I don't want them coming up here. Stay in Sydney and Melbourne, you suckers. Like, it's perfect for me and a lot of other people who don't want to get priced out. Just like a beer in Indonesia costs $1, you know, Australian, and locals can't afford to spend $1 on it, and it's just all driven up by the tourist trade. So I don't want to be driven out of Townsville all that soon. So I'll do another 10 and repent. I went on a walk. I didn't do any other exercise today. I did a bit of hangs and kettlebell stuff for the video, but it was just as a way to test my sound setup. Yeah, well, man, I think Start Building Me can be the dead center for everything, right? Because this is something that should be so fundamental to people. It's like you can explain to an athlete they have to know how to do a squat and they'll be like, yes. But you tell somebody else, oh, you have to know how to do a squat, and they'll be like, no, I don't. It's just like, you should know the concept and the technique behind sitting down and standing up. To the point of conscious competence, right? In the 4 stages of proficiency, of competence, you should be able to think about what you're doing conceptually and execute it flawlessly. And there's not that many things in life that you really need to do for that, right? It's like so many people are stuck in unconscious competence with sleeping, right? It's like people don't know what's involved to make your body sleep, and then they just whinge about having bad sleep. Now, I used to whinge about having bad sleep. I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but when I used to travel a lot in between time zones, you'd just be jet lagged all the time. So it was hardly me not being mindful of what was going on. You were just forced to, you know, to be jet lagged. And that's where I got an addiction to alprazolam, which is something that almost cost me my life, right? So there's so many problems that can become, problems that can become bigger problems. And at least with that, I knew what was going on. Like there's not much I could have done about it. And obviously alprazolam is extremely addictive. And since I was taken off it, it went from Schedule 4 to Schedule 8, which is the highest schedule, along with like fentanyl and stuff like that. So it was obviously a pretty big problem. The very same year, it was like a month after I was hospitalized for alprazolam, they rescheduled it. So it's a very dangerous drug. And my point with this all is that with unconscious competence with sleeping, it's like there will be people that are sitting on their phones up until the bitter end and then wondering why they're not getting sleep. Or people who don't exercise who wondered why they're not getting good sleep. Or people who are sucking down like Red Bulls 10 minutes before going to bed, or really sugared products. It's like it's going to screw up with your sleep. So just like that, I want to move people up to that conscious competence with something like a squat, to be mindful of the fact that if you can do this proficiently, folks, you'll increase your back strength, you'll reduce the chance that you'll pull a lot of muscles in your lower and your posterior chain. You'll have reduced hip flexor problems if you execute it properly, of course. If you're doing dodgy squats, you can get actually worse hip flexors. It will get you breathing more. It will improve your posture. You'll just think about the tension that you get in all the different muscles, your core muscles, your posterior chain, your quadriceps when you're doing this are just such massive and important muscles in your physiology that, like I'm saying, with walking, if that's all you did as an exercise, it's going to be hard to beat. Like if you can add push-ups in there, and I won't change the camera because I didn't switch it on, but I'm always explaining to people on my disappearing back, Ben, that if you can't do strict push-ups yet and you can start doing them off your knees, and people are like, oh, that's not a real push-up. Well, I mean, technically it is. You're pushing yourself up off the ground. If you don't have the body mass to support it yet, and you can spot yourself by taking a bit of that intensity off by, putting your knees on the ground to be able to get some technique down to force some blood around those muscles, in the end you'll have the core strength and stability to be able to help yourself do a push-up. So it sort of will roll into that all the time. But man, if you're just doing squats, folks, if you're just doing this every day and like I said, this is like I've been doing about 30 minutes recently, but if anybody comes in and says, hey, how's it going? Grow some hair. I did 15 squats, catch you tomorrow, right? You don't have to stay here for the entire duration. You could just be going for broke right now, breathing and doing squats, and get into that point where you feel like, yeah, you know what? I feel like I've greased the groove, to use a term that you used the other night, Ben. Got it down where I feel like I've improved something, or feel like something's gelling, and feeling like I'm getting some coordination, which is ultimately what we're after. The better you coordinate yourself, the easier it gets, the more inclined you're going to do it, and the stronger the habit gets. It's just that snowballing thing. And it happens really quick, especially with something that you can do unconsciously, incompetently as a child, right? As somebody getting out of their bed as a kid, they can do a squat. And in fact, my niece, Phoebe, when she goes and picks stuff up out of the toy box, she'll be sitting right down like the hawker stall person doing the satay sticks at the side of the road there, no worries. And it's funny, we devolve over time because we don't use it so much, and our core strength starts to, decline over time. And it just, like I always say, we're trying to stop reverting back into that fetal position, which is a terrifying way to live the rest of your life when you start seeing people that have that sort of curvature of their spine going down. It just creates a whole bunch of more problems. So let's say I've done 30 squats today. That's pretty cool. I might try and get another 20 out before going out and watching House of Dragons and lying about it to everyone, saying, no, I don't watch that fantasy garbage. Because I don't. I do. Garbage. No, it's actually, it's watchable. It's not as good as Andor, though. I'm starting to dig that. So I'll do another 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, yes, as do I. I just downloaded it before I came here. I'm gonna chuck some kangaroo fillets in the skillets and heat them up and had them with the lads, which will be good. And have a bit of sauerkraut with it for some prebiotic action in my stomach. And yeah, so even now, like, even for somebody who's been doing this for their entire life, you grease the groove within the session as well. Like, after doing a few, you'll feel, oh, okay, something was a little bit wrong. Maybe my knees were rolling in a little bit, so I've got to focus more about driving my toes in and pushing the weight to the outside of my feet, sitting back into my heels. Or maybe you stop breathing and you're just like, you know, and like having some weird breathing pattern that will slow you down from lactic acid buildup, because it becomes an anaerobic respiration process. Start breathing in to try and compensate for that. Oh yeah, I forgot to set my timer again. Usually when I put on the functional strength trainer thing on my phone, it will tell me what my heart rate is. I'm starting to get warm now, which is nice. I was just sitting there watching the football, shivering from sitting in the ice box too long. But yeah, it's good. It calms the mind. It's a crazy tool for meditating in. It just makes the meditation that much more, what would be the word? Focused, dare I say? Like, you really just do focus on the task, because it's either that or you focus on the fact that your hands and your toes feel like they're on fire. So you're not. You focus on that breath and you count the breath and you breathe just like when you're squatting. And all we're doing is pumping the blood around our body, getting our heart rate up, letting our heart rate fall. That's what exercise is. And this is a really, really good one. And I was just feeling something pulling my groin there. So what was I doing? I was letting the weight fall to the inside of my feet. So I'll slow it down now and have that weight go to the outside of my feet, and then I'll stop feeling that tension on that tendon right there at my groin. So you can slow it down. And the biggest problem people end up getting, folks, is their knees, shoulders, and lower back are the things that most people get problems with. Now, I've got bad shoulders from multiple motorcycle injuries. You can live with those. I can still do push-ups and chin-ups, no worries, it's not so bad. Lower back issues, I've had those my whole life because the ergonomics of the world is set up for short people, so I'm always bending over for doorknobs, bending over for sinks, bending over for my bosses, so you can't really avoid it. But if you are, so if I ever build a house, the doorknobs are going to be like 120 centimeters high and stuff like that. My kitchen sink's going to be up to my chest, so I can just do dishes like that, even though I've moved to the world of the dishwasher at this stage. And yeah, I'm feeling sweaty, so obviously it's pretty warm in here. I'd probably put it about 28 degrees Celsius, but after coming out and freezing, Yeah, well, no more. Exactly right, mate. It was like there's some Russian gang tattoo where they have stars on their knees and their elbows, I think, and it's like, I'll get down on my knees for no person is what it indicates, and I like that. You know, I don't have any tattoos or anything, too cheap to buy them personally. But yeah, I figured I have a better crack at doing what I want to do, just like you're doing, than, you know, somebody else's garbage system, and just seeing people reinvent the wheels without authenticity. It's like, oh, we need another person who's going to be in clad spandex doing peptides and hormones and saying that they're not doing peptides and hormones to sell people a meal replacement shake that they don't need. Like, Instagram's flooded with that, so's the internet. The most important thing I can think that is a niche that I haven't seen is just getting people into the fact that consistent exercise forms a good habit, and then you can start seeing your performance over time, right? And as soon as you start logging that data for that performance over time with an app that I want to do eventually, that's just reinforces that habit. You're like, oh, something is actually working. And that's why I always say weight isn't a great one, because muscle mass weighs more than fat. So a lot of the time you can start gaining weight before losing it. So it's off-putting. And that's why squat numbers is a better one, because like now I think I've done about 50. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got a benchmark now for this session of 50, right? I was probably a few more than that actually, but it's irrelevant. 50 is the benchmark that I'll take today to know that where I am, even with a bunged knee, even when freezing, even when probably about to get Bell's palsy from, you know, being in 1 degree Celsius water and getting some sort of arterial blockage from it. 50 is a good number, you know, 50 squats a day. If you just do that, and here's how I have to, you know, gauge people's, or sort of prepare people for their expectations of this. You are not going to get jacked just doing squats, right? But you are going to reduce the chance that you're going to get all kinds of bad stuff from not exercising by doing this. So that's why the vanity metrics are probably not such a good idea, because all I'm trying to get you in here is like, hey, I can do 10 squats now. I couldn't do 5 squats yesterday, so I'm moving up in the world in squats. The more proficient you get, look, even I am sweating here. Yes, it's 28 degrees in this room, but nonetheless, I start sweating even when the air conditioner's on. I can feel my legs rubbing together since this session as well. So just by doing bodyweight squats, I can feel my knee track is getting a better aligned so it doesn't swell up as much, as well as resting it up whilst watching Chelsea versus Aston Villa. And more than anything, you've accomplished something. It's just like people watching people play video games, and like, I don't get it. I'm just too old for that scene, right? But why not try and work on something, your character, your actual character, that's going to improve the quality of your life over time? I will be able to crack the code to get through to people this at some stage, just because I have, you know, 20 years of experience of changing friends' lives, of seeing them make a difference, and just seeing, I used to live with Jazz, Ben, and, you know, we used to jam metal and, you know, drink beers, you know, and then after a while I was like, cool, let's take this 60 kilo sandbag, put it on our shoulders and walk up to the park, which was half a kilometre away, walk around the park a few laps, and then sort of go back to back and offload it to the other person, and keep on going for as long as we can, and then gauge how far we can go until we have to walk it back to the house. And Jazz was a beast at it, and I know for a fact, like, Jazz liked it. Like, it's one of those things, like, it's a simple accomplishment where you're just like, wow, you know, and you have it like, it's like, this is our buddy and he got shot in Nam and we're going to have to carry him back over the border, or just have some stupid joke about it that we're doing it. it's just something that you're accomplishing, something that is actually practical. Yes, exactly. And it would be something like, it went from me sort of always encouraging Jazz to do it, unlike now where he sort of, comes every day, rain, hail or shine, and would be like, you want to go take the bag for some laps? It's just like, it's a cool thing to do. It's better than most of the other stuff you're going to be doing in your day. And like now, like I said, I got the blood pumping. I got to see my mates who are in a network around the world, and putting the content down for anybody else who's working and watching this on either Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. And if you are, like whichever one that is, so it will pop up and tell you an indicator when I'm coming. Same shameless self-promotion, but like I said, it's in my interest as a taxpayer to get everybody exercising, because it reduces how much our healthcare budget will be crippled by in the next few years. So anyway, I'm not going to watch House of Dragon now illegally from a downloaded torrent, and I will catch you guys tomorrow at the same time as always. And